Have you ever been so scared you could feel it in your bones? A cold dread that freezes your every move. Tonight, I want to tell you a story about a fear like that, and about a young woman who walked right into its heart. Her name was Soria, and her story begins on a night when the moon hid its face, and the wind whispered secrets through the shadows. Soria lived in a small village nestled at the edge of a vast, ancient bamboo forest. The forest was called Whispering Grove, but not for any gentle reason. Locals said that at night the spirits of the forgotten roamed its paths. Their sorrowful sighs carried on the wind through the hollow bamboo stalks. No one dared to enter after sundown. But on this particular night, Soria had no choice. Her father, her only family, lay in their small hut, his breath a shallow, rattling whisper. A fever burned through him, and the village healer had shaken his head, his eyes full of pity. There was only one hope, a rare silver-leaf herb that grew deep within the Whispering Grove, near the old abandoned shrine. The healer had given her a small potion, but it was almost gone. He needed a fresh dose, and he needed it before dawn. Soria's heart hammered against her ribs like a trapped bird. Every ghost story she'd ever heard, every childhood warning, screamed at her to stay inside, to lock the door and wait for the morning light. But the image of her father's pale, sweat-soaked face was stronger than any fear. She wrapped her shawl tightly around her shoulders, took the family's old oil lantern, and slipped out into the oppressive darkness. The entrance to the forest was a gaping maw of blackness. The moment she stepped under the canopy of towering bamboo, the air grew still and cold. The familiar sounds of the village faded, replaced by an unnerving silence. Her lantern cast a small, trembling circle of light, pushing back the darkness just enough for her to see the narrow, winding path. The bamboo stalks, thick as a man's arm, crowded in on either side, their green skins gleaming like bone in the lamplight. She walked for what felt like hours, her own footsteps sounding unnaturally loud and quiet. Then the whispers started. At first, it was just a soft sigh, like the rustle of leaves, but it grew clearer, forming words that slithered into her ear. Go back, they seemed to hiss. You don't belong here. Soria squeezed her eyes shut, clutching the lantern tightly. I am here for my father, she whispered to herself, her voice a fragile thread. I am not afraid. But she was. She was terrified. The path twisted, and ahead her light caught something strange. A figure hunched over by the side of the path. It was an old woman, her back to Soria, her hair long and white. Soria's breath hitched. She knew the story of the weeping crone, a spirit who mourned her lost child and tried to lead travelers astray. Lost little one, the figure rasped without turning round. The voice was like dry leaves skittering across stone. Soria's blood ran cold. She remembered the healer's advice. Never speak to them. Never look them in the eye. Just keep walking, gathering every ounce of her courage. Soria walked past the figure, her eyes fixed firmly on the path ahead. She could feel the cold gaze on her back, and the whispering grew louder, more insistent, filled with sorrow and a chilling anger. She didn't dare look back. She just walked faster, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm. The path grew steeper, and the air heavier. The lantern flame flickered, threatening to die. "Please," she begged the small flame, "don't leave me in the dark." Suddenly, the bamboo stalks to her left began to shake violently, though there was no wind. A low moan echoed from within the grove, a sound of pure agony that made the hairs on her arms stand up. She saw shadows moving between the stalks, fleeting and distorted shapes that seemed to reach for her. Fear was a physical thing now, a hand gripping her throat. She wanted to scream, to run, to drop everything and flee back to the village. But then she pictured her father's face again. His life depended on her. This thought was her shield. It was her own lantern in the darkness of her fear. She forced her legs to move, one step at a time. "For my father," she chanted under her breath, a mantra against the encroaching terror. The whispers turned to taunts, mocking her fear, telling her she would fail, that she would become one of them, a lost soul in the bamboo. She saw glimpses of faces in the darkness, pale, sad faces with empty eyes that watched her from between the stalks. But she didn't stop. Finally, through a break in the bamboo, she saw it, a faint silvery glow, the shrine, and around its crumbling stone base grew the oaks, their leaves shimmering in otherworldly light, just as the hero had described. Relief washed over her so powerfully, her knees almost buckled. She scrambled towards the light, her hands shaking as she carefully plucked the precious leaves and placed them in her pouch. She had done it, but her trial wasn't over. As she turned to leave, the path back was gone. In its place stood a wall of impenetrable bamboo. Panic flared in her chest. A trick. The spirits were toying with her. The whispers swirled around her, laughing now. A cold, cruel sound. Soria was trapped. She sank to the ground. The lantern light wavered, her hope beginning to gutter like the flame. Was this it? Had she come all this way only to fail? To become another ghost story told by the village elders? Tears welled in her eyes, but as they streamed down her cheeks, something shifted inside her. It wasn't just fear anymore. It was anger at these spirits, at their cruelty. She had come here not for greed or glory, but for love. She stood up, her small frame filled with a sudden, fierce resolve. She held the lantern high, its light seeming to burn brighter in her determined hand. "I am Soria," she shouted, her voice ringing out clear and strong, cutting through the whispers. "I am here for my father, and I will not be stopped. Your sorrow is not mine. Your prison is not mine. Let me pass." For a moment, there was a deafening silence. The whispering stopped. The shadows ceased their dance. The entire forest seemed to be holding its breath. Then, slowly, miraculously, the wall of bamboo in front of her began to part. The stalks shifted aside, revealing the path home, clear and waiting. Soria didn't hesitate. She ran. She didn't look back. She didn't listen for the whispers. She ran with the life-saving herbs clutched in one hand and her faithful lantern in the other. She burst out of the forest, gasping into the pre-dawn grey, the familiar sight of her village a balm to her soul. She raced to her father's side and prepared the medicine. As the sun's first rays streamed through the window, her father's fever broke. He opened his eyes, and when he saw her, he smiled. It was a weak smile, but it was the most beautiful thing Soria had ever seen. Soria never told anyone the full story of what happened in the Whispering Grove that night. They wouldn't have understood, but she knew. She had walked through the valley of ghosts, faced her deepest fears, and had not been broken. The forest was still a place of dread for the village, but for Soria it held a different meaning. It was a reminder that the brightest light isn't always the one you carry in your hand, but the one you find burning inside your own heart. It's the light of love, of courage, and of hope. And that is a light that no darkness can ever truly extinguish. Thanks for watching. If this story touched you, be sure to like and subscribe for more tales of courage. See you next time.